Welcome to the Hustle Wing podcast. Today we are joined by Brad Rice, the founder and CEO of Homepie, and we're going to chat to him about his company and his needs and get to know him a little bit. So thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today, Brad. How are you doing?
We're doing great today, Izzy. I'm excited to get started with you.
Great, great. Okay, that's exciting. So talk to me. What is Homepie? What do you guys do?
Well, it's very interesting because home pie is something that really stands out today
Yeah.
more than ever before. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little later. But home pie was a vision I had of how real estate would be transacted between buyer and seller in the future. And this
Okay.
was an idea I developed over a number of years, but in 2019 started to work on it and launched our marketplace, which is a free marketplace for buyers and sellers of real estate, mainly homes, single family residences, condos, things of that nature, mobile homes, even land, to be able to communicate directly with each other and use our technology to facilitate a transaction without the need of real estate services if they choose not to, and to
Okay.
use that technology to create the ultimately the biggest savings in real estate and the most transparency in a transaction.
Yeah. Okay, that's
Yeah,
so cool. So do you have a background in real estate?
I do. So I started in real estate and primarily mortgage in the
Uh-huh.
early 90s. So I graduated college, got into the mortgage business when I was buying my first home. I had a conversation with the mortgage broker at the time, and I thought, wow, this is an interesting business. And I was still going to college, and I said, I'd like to learn more about it. And I wound up spending a day with her and kind of fell in love with the process, and thought about, well, gosh, no matter where you earn your money, somehow, some way, that money winds up in real estate. So why not cut out the middleman? Why don't I earn my money in real estate? So I wound up originating loans for a number of years. I became a top producer, ultimately started a company of my own in 1999, grew that into a big operation, 43 states, doing wholesale and retail, writing our own mortgage products, securitizing it, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Then the big crash happened, and
Yeah.
we hit a reset button. And here we are today. I've got a mortgage company. My partner runs the day to day of that business while I concentrate my energy on HomePie.
Nice. That's so
Yeah,
cool. I mean, I'm glad that you didn't stop after the crash. I'm sure a lot of people sort of logged out. I mean, it's the same with COVID. A lot of people sort of,
yeah.
hit a wall and then decided to change completely. So it's nice to see that you didn't take the no as a no, just as a we let's reset.
There was a there was a pause, we'll say, for a couple of years cleaning up the mess. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty much when you've been doing it that long, it's in your blood, so it draws you back in.
That's so cool. So yeah, so how if you I wonder how I'm trying to word this. So you're kind of cutting out the middleman between the buyer and the seller when it comes to the
Yeah,
selling.
so look, the reason I mentioned that it's really more prevalent today than ever before, when I
Yeah.
started HomePie, the idea really was to create this free marketplace. So just like if you were going to sell your own car, you might think of going on Auto Trader, creating a
Yeah.
listing, and
Hmm.
then it finds the buyers for you. You communicate directly with the buyer, and you facilitate a transaction. It's not that difficult. Obviously,
Yeah.
buying a home is a lot more complex and there's a lot
Yeah.
more legal side to it.
Yeah.
So there's more technology that we needed to build into that process and make it easy for anybody to do. But that was the idea. When I started to look around at what was out there for solutions for what we call for sale by owner, there
Hmm.
really wasn't a whole lot of solutions out there. People would create a listing on Zillow, and that has morphed and changed over the years and become less effective.
Yeah.
Or they would use Craigslist or maybe Facebook Marketplace, which is really not a good spot for it. There really
Yeah.
is no great place to list your home by owner and get the type of exposure you need
Yeah.
that a real estate agent can do for you by putting in the MLS.
Mm.
So when I realized that that didn't exist, I thought, well, this is a big space. There's a giant industry here. There's a big beachhead market, meaning those that were already selling by owner is a big portion of the market anyway. Let's put a
Yeah.
solution in place. And so that was the idea. We created this marketplace. And so you can go on just like any other marketplace for real estate, Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, Homes.com, all of those. You can surf for properties, you can favorite them, you can share them, you can do all those same functions.
Yeah.
But when you're ready to write an offer, you write it directly to the seller through the platform. And we have technology that walks you through
Mm-hmm.
step by step in that process. So just like you would sit across the table from a real estate agent and they would ask you, well, how much are you looking to buy this for? And here's what I think you should do.
Yeah.
Are you getting a loan? What's your down payment? Do you want a contingency for the loan? Do you want a contingency for the appraisal? All of those things, it trains you and teaches you as a step by step to create an offer, a digital offer to the seller that happens in real time. So sorry about that. It should be on D&D. But that being said, so so the technology walks you through the process, just like in comparison, TurboTax would walk you through in a very small bite-sized questions. And at the end of the day, you have a complicated tax return that's created. So very similar in that regard.
Amazing. Okay, cool. I feel like it's really well thought out. And yeah, I mean, you're definitely looking out for people that are in that space already, sort of, selling, without
Yeah,
using.
and there are people that do it, and a lot of people don't know that you can do it on your own.
Yeah.
Today, it's more prevalent because we just a couple of weeks ago saw a landmark case with a giant judgment for buyer commissions on standard real estate transactions. So it's a case called Sitzer Burnett, and the judgment was just a couple of weeks ago with the treble damages. It was $5 billion. It's in the state of Missouri. And now there are a number of other lawsuits that are nationwide that claim the same thing, that there just isn't enough transparency in
Yeah.
what it costs the seller to sell their home, and that they're paying commissions for a buyer's agent. They're not able to negotiate that. So what we've done is we've created a very transparent environment where the seller automatically upfront decides if and how much they're willing to pay an agent on the buyer's side for commissions. Now, I believe that there's a lot of value to the buyer's agent. I want to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah.
We've definitely proven that somebody can list their home on their own and sell it on their own. It's been done like that for decades.
Yeah.
People have sold their own homes. But typically on the buyer's side, there's a lot more to it, especially if you're a first-time buyer, you've never bought a home before. You may not want to indulge in doing that yourself from start to finish. You may want to talk to somebody to help guide you through that and tell you what to expect. But more so, people are moving to areas that they've never lived in before, more than ever before, right?
Yes.
And so if I'm going to move, let's say where I'm at, which is in California, to Tennessee, I don't know where to look there. I don't know where to start the journey. I don't know what side of what street I should be looking on. If I've got kids that are a certain age, I don't know what neighborhoods would fit that. There's certain things you can look up online. And there's other things that with just local knowledge and domain experience, you can't get unless you work with somebody who's got that experience. And so we made the platform such that a buyer can come in on their own and go through the process and buy directly from the seller, but they can also invite their buyer's agent into the process, and that agent can lead them through that as well. So we are friendly for the buyer's agent. I want to make sure that that's clear, and we do see that there's a lot of value for that local domain knowledge, and especially those folks that really want to be walked through the transaction.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that's a really good point to hustle home. I'm glad you made that point. Okay, great. So what's the long-term vision for Homepie?
We really want this to be something that is a sticky transaction, meaning that we don't just get people to come in every 5 to 7 years when they want to buy or sell a home, but it's something where they can live in the platform and manage the home as well. So throughout the transaction, when you're buying a house, we build a repository for you, or call it a document, a document section of your dashboard that stores everything that you acquire through the transaction. So when you're writing the offer, the contract goes in there. There's, of course, a digital ledger that you can audit about that negotiation. The inspection reports, your loan documents, all your closing documents, the insurance, and all of these things go into this repository and get stored there. So at some point down the line, when you're going to get a refinance or you're doing something else with the home, you've got one place that you can look at and go, that's where it is. I can go find it there. As
Yeah.
opposed to right now, today, most people are like, do I have that in a file somewhere or is it in my computer? Where did I hide? And they have a hard time doing that. They wind up calling the people that helped them with the previous transaction to give them those documents. So
Mm.
that's one way that we want to keep it very sticky. The other is by training the buyer and the seller for that matter to use this repository. Ultimately, we will connect, and we don't today, but we will connect to your insurance company, to your mortgage servicer, to
Mm.
all these services. And that way you can manage them from that one location as well. So if
Yeah.
you own multiple properties, sometimes it's difficult to figure out which insurance company insures them or which mortgage company you're paying. By
Yeah.
giving yourself one location, going to that property and managing it, maybe having your paint colors in there or your tile that you use for the remodel,
Yeah.
and those things that would build value for the next owner and be able to be transferred to them with the press of a button when you sell the home. That's
Yeah.
the ultimate goal of Home Pie, to be your complete pie, right? You
Yeah.
can buy and sell on Home Pie, but then you can also manage your home and pass along that information to a new buyer when they need it. They'll know who your pool guy was, who your landscape person was, who you used for plumbing, all those things that
Yeah.
really buyers want to know when they buy a home. If it
Definitely.
works today, why wouldn't I continue with those services? And that happens a lot. It just happens in a very unmeasurable way.
Yeah.
And this will makes it nice and creates continuity.
Awesome. That's so cool. Like
Yeah,
you really think about things that I've never really thought about. Like I've never thought I would, if I was buying, I've never bought a house, but if I was buying a house, I wouldn't think, who was your previous gardener? I just move
right.
in, and then when I need to garden, I'd be like, oh man.
That's right. That's right. Where do I
That would
start?
be really useful. Cool. I like that. So now, what are some of the challenges that you're currently facing at Home Pie?
Well, we've got a giant opportunity ahead of us. So, since this judgment from a couple of weeks ago and all the disruption that's happening, our
Yeah.
business has increased dramatically. We're a very small team, we're very scrappy.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of funding, but it's time to raise money now. And so,
Yeah.
our goal right now is to raise the funds necessary that we can move from being bi-coastal. So right now we're just in California and Florida to
Hmm.
nationwide. We've got the
Okay.
plan to do it. We know how to execute it.
Yeah.
We just need the funding. We need the funding for the engineering it's going to take, the legal, the licensing, and then the marketing of it. And once we have that, we can take this and expand and really make a difference for people and solve this problem that exists today about transparency and just put the buyer and the seller in the driver's seat. And so they know exactly what's happening and what they're agreeing to.
Amazing. Okay, cool. Well, we can definitely get you in contact with the right people that would be able to assist you with the funding side. We do have some amazing people in the finance, function that are, well experienced and know how to, know how to work the ropes, especially in real estate. I mean, it's huge. So funding there would definitely be simple. And yeah, I love that you mentioned that you want to you already have the plan and you want to, you will eventually look into sort of the engineering side, the marketing side, and things like that. Then we can definitely sort of park those right now. And then obviously once you're ready to open those cases, then, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time, Brad. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. I love, your company. It sounds like you know what you're talking about. Obviously, you've been here, for so long.
A
So,
little bit.
so you're definitely in good hands. So, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day. It's really, really nice chatting to you.
Thanks, Izzy.